Welcome to the AxeCast podcast. Conversations with interesting people from the world of Acadia athletics and more, talking about their lives, successes, and failures. And now let's join hosts Glenn Hawley and Eric Cederberg for the next 15 to 20 minutes as they dive into the life of today's guest.
Hey, this week on the AxeCast, we are joined by a former captain of the Acadia Hockey Axemen, leading the program to its second national championship from the class of 1997. The captain, Greg Clancy, is with us. Clance, thanks for doing this.
Oh, happy to be here, Len.
You were here at a real special time in Acadia hockey history. I mean, it's all a special time, but certainly when you're winning national championships, it sort of rises to the surface. But before we get into talking about all of the things that were so great, in your time here, take us back to your junior days and how the road to Acadia led here for you.
Yeah, well, it's a few years back, Len. We'll have to I'll have to think about that for a minute. But yeah, it's funny because to start out running into Acadia, we talked to a number of universities, and I played for the 67s for I guess 2.5 years, and then in Ottawa, and then I ended up in Kingston, which is my hometown. And we were lucky enough in Kingston to have a great run in the last year I was there, which was, pretty special. We had so-so teams in Ottawa, so a little taste of winning was quite fun and quite different from the earlier team that I played for in Kingston. So it was very important looking for a school that was in a situation where they had the talent to keep winning, because it's contagious. And Jason Weaver, who also came to Acadia with me, played with me in Kingston for the Frontenacs his last year. So we kind of went as a package deal way back then, a million years ago. There's a few coaches that don't like us in the league for sure, because we did go to Acadia. But what the national championship team from 92, 93 had built, and the previous teams before them that came close, of course, really was enticing for us, because we wanted to go to something that was special.
It's interesting when you go to programs that do have like a winning culture, and like you said, it certainly is inviting. I always wonder this from, maybe you can get into a little bit of the philosophical, what you would put into thinking. I've watched other programs where you see kids, it's a winning culture, and you might have, guys that could be a first line player in any other team sitting in the press box and not playing.
Sure.
And I always wonder, how much of that, do you want to be part of something that's building to something great, or do you want to join something that's already great?
Yeah. And that was, that was the problem we had at Acadia. I mean, people don't think about that very often, but when you think about, the Doug Reynolds of the world, and, Marcel Billards, and not taking away from anything that they did at Acadia, because they did phenomenal jobs, Jeff Mercer, Trevor Fraser, these guys would all be leaders they were leaders, but they would be leading scorers on any other teams. And they accepted roles in third line situations where they would have been first and second and had power play time. So when I was captain and our captains and our coaches, the hardest thing for us to do is to keep those guys interested. And they were pivotal in us winning eventually, but you don't feel bad, because practice for us was unreal. Our practices were high intensity battles. So Doug Reynolds was not on the third line in practice, nor was Jeff Mercer or Fraser. And you knew when they were around you, that's for sure. They're big, strong men. But and I'm forgetting other guys there, and I'm sorry, but Morgan Mann is a guy that I played with the year before, and these types of players you need to win, but they made a choice to play in a lower role as far as ice time as they would have had anywhere else.
The other thing too is the culture of a program, Clance. And, if you think of the 92, 93 guys, and I think of Normie Batherson, and I think of, Jeff McLeod, Kevin Knopp, and all these guys, George DuPont, they were all leaders. And then, you and Weaves and Witten come along, and you got, it's almost like you just sort of had the reins handed, like it was a transition.
Yeah, well, they built it. And let's be clear, we have a funny rival between us of who's the best team, of course, and we all know it was us. But I'm sorry, guys. Anyways, I had to get that out. Mike Dawson made me do it. It's his fault. But we walked into a situation where we had great players, and in the first year for all of us coming along, Dwayne Dennis had a unbelievable season. I can't remember, 35 goals or something crazy. Player of the year. And people forget that we were up 5-1 against Lethbridge in the Nationals in the semifinals. We had a national championship stolen from us in year one. So I think all of us that were there for that knew and appreciated how hard it was to win when you had that good a team. Jeff McLeod was on that team. Obviously, Knopp, you mentioned earlier, Burnsy, we had leadership, we had Sproxton and Nets, we had great defense. And we still came out in a one-game outcome when you have two bad periods, And I know if you guys remember who that Lethbridge coach was?
Some guy named Babcock.
Yeah. I wonder where he would have been if we'd have scored one more goal and made it 6-1. But anyways, back to the culture, that's what we walked into. So anything short of greatness for us was a failure. And that's a failure year for us, even though we were a goal away from a national championship, basically. But you look at those guys, and I didn't get to play with Normie Batherson, and I did play against him in the AHL. He was in Fort Worth, I think. That doesn't matter. I was in Grand Rapids, so we crisscrossed paths, but we never really played together, which is a shame. I've got nothing but great things to say about him. And you think about culture, Mike Dawson now has become we'll call him a super scout. So he's now with the Kraken in Seattle, but he was in Carolina for 6 or 7 years as a scout. And he tried very hard to get Norm's son, Drake, to Carolina, which looks really good on him right now. So congratulations to Drake playing this well for the Sens. And, obviously Normie is a great role model for him and for us coming into Acadia, to be honest.
So you come into a program that's got a winning culture. Is it a challenge, or is it scary? Is it intimidating?
Well, we welcomed it because that's what we wanted. We wanted to come in and be challenged, and again, you accept your position when you walk in. You're not a national championship guy, even though we're playing with national championship team for all of us, right? So we were well aware that we had to create our own destiny, of course, and our first year losing for a lot of guys was really tough to grasp. So you want to set your own. Everyone that comes into the programs loves the culture, but they also are going to put their own footprint on it. And we had a different team than they did, of course, and we had to find a way to win. And it was very difficult to do that. Even our second year, we don't talk about those teams, but again, you're still talking about Jeff McLeod, and it was Broxton was still there, and we had one loss the whole season. Right? I mean, it was just unbelievable team. I'm not going to say it's not the best team of all that didn't win. We ran into a hot goaltender in Moncton who just stood on his head. I think we outshot them 100-40 in 2 games and lost. And they won a national championship. So these things are tough as a player to really accept that you're that good, and we still didn't win those first 2 years. So within that culture, a lot of people don't realize the heartache there is. And there's a lot of guys in there that, just may have missed it because they didn't, get the lucky break in the game to win it like we did in 95, 96.
How closely you follow university games, but it's interesting. There was a guy that played here at Acadia, and he graduated about 15 years ago, and he's come to some games here, and he watches the team play today, and he says, I don't think I could play. And this guy played at a very high level. He says, I don't think I could play today. When you look at the guys, geez, Clance, you've been out of here. It's getting pretty close to 25 years.
Don't say it.
But when you look at the game, in my heart of hearts, I'd say, Clancy, Weaves, Witt, and all these guys could still play the game. But when you look at these guys and the stuff that the training now compared to even 25 years ago, what goes through your mind?
Well, unfortunately for Mike Dawson and I, we still play Mondays with a lot of these guys that are just coming out of pro. So yeah, we know how good they are. It's very tough on our bodies. I'll put it that way. And truthfully, the way the players have learned to skate, especially the D-men. But we had that. And that's what made us so different, is how great our defense was. Yeah. Always, right from day one all the way through it, from your McLeods to your Dohertys to your Brian Casey, who played a million years pro afterwards because he was such a great skater. We were fortunate that we were kind of ahead of our time for that. And that's why we were so good. Now everybody skates well and everybody is this type of player. And I've watched quite a bit, and I play Friday hockey with the Queen's Golden Gales coach, Brett Gibson. So we've been, and the players have played with us here and there, and they are different. They're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster. There's no question. So to compare teams now, I mean, you look back at Gretzky and some of his goals, but nobody will dispute how great he was. But how many does he get today? Yeah. With the hits Crosby takes, and I won't get off base too far, but it's tough in a time to extrapolate and take a team into the future or the past.
Yeah, it's funny, if you go back to that year when you guys won the national championship the second time, so that would be 1996, you'll recall the memorable, I think it was a best of 3 series against UPEI. I think every game might have gone to overtime. And when I look at the rosters, and I'm not trying to disparage UPEI at all, but I look at the man-for-man rosters and wonder, why didn't Acadia just walk over these guys in 2 games straight? But it was, double overtime? The Dozer won it in game 3.
Yeah, UPI. Thanks for not mentioning the fact that we blew a 2-goal lead in the last 2 minutes of that game, and I lost a couple of draws out. So there's nobody happier than me to see Dozer score that goal. And again, we were down 2-0 to Three Rivers, Trois-Rivières in the semifinals, 2-0 after the first period. Yeah. So these games. What's so unique, and football has always had this, they've always had the one game, right? And that's it. But hockey-wise, you usually get more chances at this. And if we had longer series, I think you would have seen those teams win more, of course, championships. But you got to have a break here once and there, here and there. And, over the 4 years, no offense to our 96 team, phenomenal. But all those teams were phenomenal. All 4 years I was there. So you need a little something. Maybe it's magic. I don't know what it is. But to win year after year in those short series is very difficult.
So you're an Ontario kid from Kingston, and you win a national championship at the hallowed Maple Leaf Gardens. Obviously it was exciting. I don't even have to tell you what your highlight of your 4 years at Acadia was, but what goes through a guy's mind? You grew up, I'm sure, watching the Leafs. You had to have. And what goes through your mind to be standing out there winning it?
Well, it's very interesting, because when you've lost the year before in front of your family, we didn't get to Toronto. I guess my second year, we lost to Moncton in the finals. But the loss to Lethbridge was devastating in Maple Leaf. Well, we didn't get to Maple Leaf Gardens. We were at the varsity before that. So there is a tremendous elation, but there's also a tremendous relief to go, we did it, to go, wow. And you look around at these guys, and I brought this in for you. This is on my desk. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Oh,
there's
right
the team
on.
right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's on my desk, and that's right afterwards. And everybody there, it just lift the piano off our back, so to speak, because the culture was so good. It's not like, it was our first shot at it. We had a few shots and we'd finally done it, and nobody could take it away from us. So it was all of us, we still have a special bond, no question.
Clancy, if you put the trophy aside and the over 200 points you scored in 4 seasons and everything, when you reflect back at your 4 years at Acadia, what are the 2 or 3 things that stand out for you?
Well, there's a number of them, and what's great about university hockey is all the teams that didn't win, we run into them. We have a kinship with guys at SMU or Dal or wherever they played, because they got a special place to live for 4 years with their best friends, getting an education, living a life that, quite frankly, is a blessed life, to be honest, very special for everybody involved. So and you're doing something good. You're getting your education while you're doing it, which is very different from junior and all the rest of it. It's not a selfish arena. It's very much a team and cultured environment where especially in Wolfville, where the town is involved. So, the president, Kelvin Ogilvie, was there during our time, and we've remained friends for a long, since the beginning, which is, you're throwing out years there. I'm not going to do that. But a lot of the moments weren't on the ice. And I think that's where they kind of miss, because they watch the games, it's exciting, and you're winning and losing, and you learn more from losing than winning. But we didn't do a lot of that at Acadia, so we found our own way to kind of challenge each other. So the moments on the ice, obviously you've got Dozer's overtime goal in UPI certainly sticks out as a massive point, and then buzzer basically in Maple Leaf Gardens, that it was over. Nobody even knows who scored, or it didn't matter, right? It was done. So those moments are the elation, but it's more the friendships and the what you built there. As far as these friendships, we just had a get together, a Zoom get together. I'm not very good at this. I think this is my third one, but of our '96 team, and it was great to see everybody. And it's just like, those 25 years haven't gone by. So to see that everybody's doing really well in their life, as far as family and education and jobs and all that type of thing. As a captain, that's the best thing that I take.
And what's interesting is, and I've said this on some of these AxeCasts, and then when I have a guy like you that's part of a national championship, there is a different and special bond for people that have sort of won it all. And I think of the 71 men's basketball team and the 81 football
That's
team.
what it is right there. You see that?
Pardon me?
The ring there? Where's my camera? Get the ring?
There it is.
That's what the difference is right there.
But there's a special bond, but it's a bond, Clance, that leaves well or lasts well beyond the days of walking across the stage and getting a diploma. Because you guys just talked about being on a Zoom call. There's a special bond there. Do you feel it?
Oh, it's no question. And our team in particular, we lost Kevin Powell in 2002, which was tough for all of us, right? So you've got your special, and then you got your special. So I'm gonna stop talking here. I don't want to be crying on this thing. So
KP was a special guy. We've got a great relationship with his family, and they've been here on the campus a couple of times. And Jim McLeod always used to say, pound for pound, KP was probably the toughest hockey player you ever watched at Acadia. I don't know if I disagree with him.
It was like you remember the sound of the hits that he made. But it was like it's like the other guy got hit by a cartoon character. So it's like he'd be leaning over them saying he was sorry after he'd hit them. That's the kind of guy he was. But so Powell really, when we got together, we were inducted, I can't remember, I think 2008, maybe 2007, as a team into the Hockey Hall of Fame for Acadia. And we took some ashes of Powell's out to Halls Harbor, where we all used to go. All of us were involved in passing them into the ocean and saying a few words. So we have more than just a championship as a bond, this group.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too, and fans that would have watched you then, and certainly for me being a little bit on the inside and getting to see you guys on a almost on a day-to-day basis, you guys are great players. You were character players, but you were also characters. And
that's for sure.
I can distinctly remember, being at Dalhousie and Mike Dawson standing at the opposing goaltender's net, drinking out of his water bottle.
Oh, yeah. That was the last straw. I think that got him in big trouble, that one, I think.
And I'm sure we could run a list here on and off the ice of things that we've seen, but characters, good description, eh?
Yeah, you had your serious guys, and you had your funny guys, you had your tough guys, and your smart guys, and you put them all together, and you have a lot of laughs. But you need all those characters. We weren't the same. Each individual was quite different. I'll tell a quick Mike Dawson story, because I see him a lot. He lives in Kingston. But you mentioned Dalhousie, and I know we had this rivalry, and it was so intense with Dalhousie. And here's your story. So and everybody now knows who SMU coach who just retired. My God,
Steinberg.
So Steinberg was coaching for Dal as the defense coach, and Dawson and him had been blipping each other the entire series, and we were destroying them. And I think Dawson's last parting gift was the worst first rounder ever. And Steinberg tried to climb the boards of glass to get at him on the ice. Anyways, they shook hands and it was fine and everything worked out. And funnily enough, not too long later, because Steinberg is also from Kingston area, he had called me at her house and asked, I was on the committee for hiring a new coach. That's 1997, I believe, right? Which, Kevin Dickey, who's going to retire, I want to pass on congratulations to him, and what a phenomenal job he's done. He ended up being hired through that coaching committee that we had put together. Anyways, so Steinberg asks me, phone's my place. Dawson picks up the phone. It's kind of silent. Comes over, goes, big smile on his face. He said, "Oh, that's Trevor Steinberg." And I start talking to Steiny. And Steinberg goes, "That was Dawson, wasn't it?" I said, "Yeah, he's gotta hate him." Oh, he hates you too. Sure enough, Burnsy, obviously a big fan of Mike Dawson's, was at SMU for a little while, brings him in, and he plays for Trevor Steinberg for a year in SMU, and now they're best friends. Trevor has just had a great career coaching as well. Hats off to Trevor Steinberg for what he's done for university hockey on the East Coast. If he's looking for a job, who hires him? Mike Dawson.
Funny how it goes.
Small little place, yeah, of course, and everybody's linked throughout all the teams.
You mentioned earlier, leaving Acadia, and then, you played pro hockey. And so, just where did your path go after Acadia, and where are you now?
Well, yeah, that'll always, be in the back of my mind. We certainly had a tremendous team at Acadia, and I had another year of eligibility. And I decided to leave. I always wonder if one more year, what would have been like. We'd be talking about another national championship, which is very possible. But I ended up going to Grand Rapids and signing right after the season in '97, I believe. And I was there for about a year and a half. Jason Weaver also signed there. We couldn't get rid of each other for a while. That would continue. So we were there about a year and a half. And then I ended up, the dream was over. So I decided to do a little traveling with my hockey. Ended up in Miami for, I think, about half a year. But funnily enough, back to our old stories, who recruited me there was Paul Doherty, who was playing in Miami. So yeah, I got to spend a great half a season with Dozer. KP, who you mentioned earlier, was in Norway and not having fun. It certainly was not the same culture. Pro hockey is not fun. I don't know if people know that or not, but it's not fun. I mean, it's better than going to the office every day, but it's not. You're competing with your teammates for jobs. It's a different environment. Anyway, so KP actually came and lived with me in Florida when I played for Miami. And so we had Dozer and KP and I were reunited on the beach for about 4 months, basically being beach bums playing hockey, which was quite enjoyable for sure. And after that, I ended up going to England and playing with Jason Weaver again, believe it or not, for the Sheffield Steelers. And that was quite a team. And I know Dennis Fial is now a local. He's a townie now. So Dennis was on that team, Dennis Fial. He's got a water business there.
And still plays rec hockey like he's playing for the Ottawa Senators, trust me.
Oh, my intensity. Oh, we could have used him for sure. Dennis is a great guy. And every time we're in town, we end up hooking up for a little bit. But yeah, it was a great time with him too. And that was really quite a team. I had a good year my last year, but it was time to, I guess, grow up. I'm not sure I ever grow up and see my hair now, and I'm trying to go the other way. But I got into the finance industry, so I've been in there for 20 years now. We're starting date ourselves, but so that's had its ups and downs. And with finance, you still get a bit of competition and that type of thing in the markets and in business, but certainly never anything back to those days at Acadia.
Yeah, no, listen, I mean, it's, I mean, as you know, it doesn't matter what the year, the program is really special in the community, and it always, tends to do special things. But, whether it's the Yankees or the Montreal Canadiens or whatever, I mean, there were those glory days. And when you think of the 90s of Acadia Axeman hockey and winning national championships, and I think you raised a good point. In fact, I said this not long ago. You think about the 92 year when they lost to Alberta in the final and had 3 key guys suspended, and after playing UPEI,
of course,
Acadia easily could have won 4 or 5 national championships in the 90s.
For sure, no question.
Yeah.
Another not really funny story at the end, but a great outcome. You were talking about moments, and when you're a captain at that level, everybody's such a good hockey player that you kind of take a different role, because somebody's got to keep them together because they're so good. I mean, Skrena was such a great hockey player. Obviously Kevin Tucker and all these guys. Someone you had to keep them together. So Coach Hanneman came in and did a wonderful job when Tom Coulin's era ended, who did a remarkable job. His record at Acadia is incredible, Tom Coulin. But Hanneman walked into a team of pros. I mean, excuse me. This team was already on its way, but you had to find a way to kind of rein it back a little bit, because you had to bring them in and be a team. So every year at Christmas, we always had evaluations and how are you doing and all this type of thing. And Wade Whitten hadn't had a great first half of the season. He had an injury, and Coach Hanneman and him had not really seen eye to eye on certain things. And they had a meeting that was, I think, maybe would go down in history as the toughest meeting, maybe at Acadia. And I don't think the windows were broken, and I don't think anybody was actually physically struck, but it was very close. So I asked them both how it went. It was very silent afterwards. Not good was the answer, 2 words. Anyways, what came from that is how great Wade Whitten played in the second half of the year. And he led us in playoff scoring that year. We won the national championship as arguably our best player after Christmas. Those moments are the things that stick out in your head, because it's fight or flight. You're going to join or you're not going to join. And Wade Whitten decided to lead us.
Yeah, a special group of guys, a special time, and of course you were the leader in those 4 years. And you know what? We could sit here and talk for hours. I know I could raise some more stories.
I certainly want to make sure that it's not me. Obviously, Jason Weaver and Paul Doherty were a big part of these discussions. It certainly was not me. It was all of us on these decisions. Nobody had the power over these guys. You needed 3 to try to keep them in control, for sure.
Well, Clance, this has been fun. Like I said, we could do this for a lot longer and continue to tell stories, but we're out of time, and I so appreciate you doing this. You're one of the all-time best captains ever at Acadia, and certainly a national championship. What a great way to reflect on your time at Acadia. I really appreciate you doing this.
Len, it's always a pleasure, bud. Anytime.